What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Celtics Daily with me, Mike Zakarian, and we're talking about the tough weekend that was in Orlando with Games 3 and Games 4 between the Celtics and the Orlando, as the Celtics were trying to get this series over with as fast as possible. With how physical this has been, I'm sure they will be happy to say goodbye to Orlando, but it started off pretty shaky. Game 3, there was no Drew Holiday, which we'll talk more about later. Jaylen Brown was able to play again, but he's clearly not 100%. Tatum, however, did show up. He was balling out with 36 points and 9 rebounds in that game, but it just was not enough as Orlando Magic held the home court for Game 3. And as we kind of suspected, right, the role players play a little bit better at home for Orlando, and they were just as physical as it could get. Paolo and Franz combined for 61 points as Franz led the way with 32 and 8, and Paolo at 29 and 6. But it was dudes like Wendell Carter Jr. who had a big game, and then Anthony Black gave him 9 off of the bench. But again, it's the physicality, and it begs the question, why do we play the regular season the way we do if the playoffs are going to be a completely freaking different game, right? You don't see a lick of this sort of physicality in the games in February and March. And of course, there's something to be said for making sure your guys are healthy when you get to the playoffs, because those games are obviously going to matter a little bit more. But why is the game so different? It would be like in the regular season of the NFL, they were playing flag football September through January, and then the playoffs start, and all of a sudden you can hit people. And that is kind of what we're seeing here. And it's not just Celtics Orlando. We've seen that in Knicks and Pistons, who had a questionable no call late in the game. Houston and Golden State has been a rock fight in round one. But the Celtics and Orlando, it's been clear from the very beginning how physical it's been. And after this loss, Jaylen Brown even went to the podium in his post-game press conference and even said as much, like, hey, if they want to fight, we'll fight them, and then we'll see which goes on to round two. Now, we know Joe Mazzulla probably wants to fight. He's got that in his blood, but it's just so bizarre. And again, I'm not saying we shouldn't have physicality. I love the physical nature of the playoffs is what makes it so exciting. Each one of these games, honestly, all of these series outside of OKC, Memphis, have been pretty competitive and pretty physical, and I think it makes for a better product. But I just can't figure out why we don't play a version of this in the regular season, because it's literally a different sport by the time we get to the postseason. But rant over. I will get off my soapbox. But the physicality has been a clear tick up here, and that's what Orlando knew. They needed to muck it up. They needed to get physical. They needed to, I wouldn't say intentionally hurt people, but there was a little bit of hurting. I will say, too, I know we're going to talk about Game 4 as well. Stan Van Gundy on the call in TNT said one of the craziest things, just gave this whole story after, I believe it was Anthony Black fouled Tatum pretty hard. Tatum was going up to the rock, fouled him really hard on his wrist. Now, Tatum was wearing some tape on the wrist. Stan Van Gundy tells this whole story about why another player that he knew would not wear tape, because that's just a target for everybody, and that he would actively go hit that target, which, like, whatever. But then Stan goes on to say, and that's not a dirty play. Stan, that is the definition of a dirty play. You're actively trying to hurt somebody. You're hitting that injury because that's where you're hitting that spot, because that's where the injury was. That is dirty, Stan. Anyways, I want to shout out Tatum too, who really did show up for both games, and 3 and 4. I mentioned his stat line for 3. He's also introduced a new celebration, which normally I'm pretty out on a lot of the celebrations, not because we shouldn't be celebrating, but a lot of them are corny, except for John Moran, who just started lobbing grenades, which I think there's something there. But Tatum's now holding his wrist afterwards, which I like. I like that. He's like, you think I'm hurt? Take some of that. Tatum was incredible. If we go to Game 4, which they won last night, 107-98, Tatum had 37 points and 14 rebounds in this game. Out here cooking. Also had 3 steals and 3 assists. We got 21 from Jaylen Brown. Didn't have the best shooting night, but got to the line 10 times. Actually, Tatum and Jaylen Brown combined went to the line 24 times, and they made 23 of them. 23 out of 24 from the line for those guys. Porzingis had 19 and 5. Kristaps Porzingis was battling foul trouble, so much so that Joe Mazzulla at halftime was like, I don't think you're going to start. Didn't even start him for the second half. He came in early, but I think they were just so concerned about that foul trouble. He actually only played 22 minutes. But you know what we got to talk about right now? We got to talk about turning back time. Big Al. Al Horford, the 38-year-old, was out there cooking. He only had 6.6 rebounds and 2 assists, but he had 5 freaking blocks out there. He was awesome. He'd get switched on to Corey Joseph, was picking him up full court, picking up guards full court at the age 38. Man should be having an AARP membership, not playing full court defense, but you love to see it. He was great. Derek White logged some massive minutes in that game. He had 18, 7, and 7. I had to tell you, man, Derek White, every time you need somebody to make, like if the offense gets a little stagnant where it's a lot of one-on-one or ISO ball, Derek White, time in and time out, will aggressively just cut to the rim, whether it's slashing without the ball or just like getting by the first defender and going up for a layup. He's always a good job of just like resetting the offense a little bit as it can get a little funky. But anyways, the Celtics take game two. Game four. Paolo and Franz again, this time combined for 55 points, with Paolo going for 31 and 7, Franz going for 24. I had to tell you, we just don't have an answer for Paolo. And if you want to like look to the future, like this season's probably not for the Orlando Magic. If the Orlando Magic are able to upgrade the guard position, get someone who can actually run the offense for them, upgrade shooting a little bit, and then maybe the big man, Orlando's going to be tough because they got same way the Celtics when we got excited a few years ago, where it was clear we had Tatum and Brown, two wings which you need in the NBA that can guard basically 1 through 4, sometimes 1 through 5, can rebound, can shoot the ball, can attack. We knew that was the cornerstone of like hopefully a dynastic run, right? Orlando's got something similar here in Paolo and Franz. They've been very, very impressive, even though Franz's jump shot looks like it's got a gitch in it. Outside of that, they've been really impressive. But anyways, Boston will now return home. I believe Game 5 will be on Tuesday. They have a chance to close out the series and then sit back and wait to see who they're going to take on in the second round. Hopefully, they're able to take care of this at home, because if they don't win at home, then all of a sudden we're going back to Orlando for Game 6, where clearly Orlando has been tough at home. And then who knows? Then it's a Game 7. You don't want to put yourself in that situation. And one way to get themselves out of that situation is for the bench to show up. And I don't know what has happened. I guess we should be crediting the Orlando defense, but let me give you some stat lines. From Game 4, from last night's game, the Celtics played an 8-man rotation, so only 3 bench guys. Sammy Hauser played 18 minutes. He came in, knocked down 2 threes in the first quarter, and then didn't knock down anything after that. Finished the game 2 for 3. Luke Cornett did not take a shot, but that's okay. Luke Cornett's out there to offensive rebound. Peyton Pritchard, on the other hand, did not. He took 2 shots, over 2 from the field, 0 points, had 2 assists. That was a combined 6 total bench points, all of them coming in the first quarter. That's it. Everything else was on the starters. In Game 3, another one they lost, the one that they did lose, Luke Cornett this time gave him 6 points off the bench, nothing from Sam Hauser, and then Peyton Pritchard only 1 for 2, had 3 points. So that means PP, the 6th man of the year, in the last 2 games, has scored 3 points on 4 shots. Peyton Pritchard was, I believe, 15th in the league in 3-point makes this past regular season. We got to get the ball up, and I know this is not the best matchup for Peyton Pritchard. Orlando's able to go long with their guards when they put somebody like Anthony Black out there, who, again, you might not be familiar with his game. He's not an offensive menace or anything like that. However, his length really has been giving Peyton Pritchard some problems. And I think the Orlando made a nice adjustment by no longer playing Cole Anthony, because having Cole Anthony out there allowed Peyton Pritchard to cook, but you switch to Anthony Black, it's just a tough scene. So they absolutely need the bench to step up at home. Now, again, like I said about Orlando, role players typically play a little bit better at home, so hopefully Boston is able to just get their bench going, let Peyton Pritchard feel the love of the crowd, hopefully take down Game 5. And then again, curtains, right? We don't need to extend the series any longer than it's already been extended. But one concern, not only just for Game 5 in the immediate future, but heading into a potential second-round matchup. So Drew Holiday, I don't remember when this injury came up, but after Game 2, all of a sudden he was questionable with a hamstring, and now has missed 2 consecutive games. Now, again, I don't remember seeing the injury, but whatever. Joe Mazzulla did come out and say he believes that there's a really strong chance he can play Game 5, and if not Game 5, very soon. Well, we're in the playoffs, so we need Drew Holiday, and it's clear, right, that we're making Al Horford play really big minutes. The starters are all logging close to 40 minutes a game right now because of how much we're losing on Drew, right? Because Drew is for minimum 28 minutes, so they need them back. I'm also a little bit concerned about Jaylen Brown, and again, he had in Game 3. what was it? Game 3 at 19. Last night's game he had 21 and 11. So that's fine. 21 and 11, the stats look fine. He's dragging that leg around, and it's making me a little bit nervous about the long term. So that's why it is so imperative for the Celtics to secure Game 5 so that they can just chill out, sit in an ice bucket for a little bit. Just do the ice bucket challenge, but only on Jaylen Brown's knee. Because he was getting cooked on defense and cooked on by guys that like aren't good offensively. Like Kentavious Caldwell Pope was breaking him down a couple of times, just kind of looked lost defensively, and we know he's a good defensive player, so I think it had more to do with the injury. And so that is like, again, I don't think they'll have a problem with Orlando. And the way the New York Knicks defend, I'm not really nervous about them in the second round either. But if there is some real title aspirations from this Boston team, Jaylen Brown needs to be ready to go. And I know in game 2 against Orlando, he came out and had 36 and 10 or 39 and 10, whatever it was. But the games what we've seen from him in 3 and 4, he's not looked great. So and I know he's been battling a ton of injuries, so I want to be like fair to that. I know he's had the knee injury. He also had over the weekend yanked his hand. I think it was Cole Anthony. Cole Anthony also low key a little bit dirty. Yanked his finger. He had a dislocated finger that had to get jammed back in or something. So I know he's battling a lot of stuff, but he did not look great last night. And even though the stats don't look so bad, I think the eye test he didn't look awesome. So hopefully Drew and Jaylen are going to be back again. Tatum was also battling, right? He missed game 2, but he's bounced back with 2 30-plus point performances. So Tatum seems like he's fine. Porzingis finally stopped bleeding from the head. He seems okay. But the health stuff has been. This has not gone as easy as last year's playoffs. That's for sure. Even though they're up 3-1, this feels like a grind of a 3-1. So again, hopefully we'll be healthy soon. And let's get a little prediction here. Celtics in 5, right? I think they wrap it up at home. I think they're able to. The bench actually shows up. I'm going to call it now. We're going to get 5 3-pointers from Peyton Pritchard. He's going to finish with 20-plus points. Bring it to the bank. Not financial advice. Don't bet on that. But I think he's going to absolutely cook, and that the Celtics should win by double digits, and then they'll take on the Knicks because the Knicks are up 3-1. I don't see them losing 3 consecutive games, but I am not scared of New York. I know that might come back and bite me, but they just don't look right. And the last thing I wanted to say, this isn't on the rundown. If you guys missed it last night, because it was a late game, the Milwaukee Bucks, we might be at the end of an era for the Milwaukee Bucks. Damian Lillard, they're feared that he tore his Achilles, and he's like 36. So for this to happen this late in the season, he's for sure going to miss, if that is what happened, the whole next season. Milwaukee, I don't know what they do from here. I don't know where Giannis goes from here. Like, is he still going to be on the Bucks this time next year? We know he's been out there saying, like, hey, I want to compete. I want to win. The way that Milwaukee, that roster is currently constructed, I mean, they weren't going to beat Indiana even if Dame was healthy, I don't think. Indiana's a really good basketball team. And with Dame out, you're looking around at guys like Kevin Porter Jr., Kyle Kuzma. Where have you been, bro? Kyle Kuzma just like RIP, disappeared. AJ Green's been okay, but I mean, and like Brook Lopez is getting older. Bobby Portis is getting older. The Giannis era in Milwaukee might have come to a close because you can't even trade Dame now, right? Because Dame probably would have been the piece they dangled this offseason if they were trying to shake the roster up but keep Giannis there. And now you can't do that because of his Achilles. So I kind of feel bad. I feel bad for Giannis. I mean, as a Celtics fan, it makes the path to the East a little bit easier if you're not worried about Giannis. But I wonder if he stays in the East, if he does move. Does he go to a team like Brooklyn? Houston, if they get bounced in the first round, do they start dangling some pieces to go get Giannis? I don't know. That'll give us a lot to talk about this offseason because Giannis clearly finished 3rd in MVP, right? He's a cornerstone guy, still like clearly in his prime, averaging like 32 and 15. Had an incredible season. And if you put him on a lot of teams, they immediately become impactful. And if those teams are already set up for, like, if they're just like 1 star short, and you add somebody like Giannis, that's going to shake things up a little bit. So we will be back again tomorrow. And then Game 5 tomorrow, so we get to get excited. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. Let's get everybody healthy. Can we get everybody healthy? Let's get everybody healthy. Let's get through Orlando, and then the second round, baby. The quest for the defense of the title. Thanks for tuning in. Hit the subscribe on the way out, and we'll see you next time.